Hello everyone, it's Zeynep Yavaş, and today we're going to talk about designing and evaluating a language test for young learners. And my class is second grade in my English achievement test. And this is the my introduction and context part. As introduction, this project focuses on designing on achievement tests for young learners. The last was prepared for a second grade EFL classroom. Students were beginner level learners or pre-level, and the test was implemented during my practicum experience. And in my practicum context, grade was second grade, and their age between 7 and 8. And our topics were weather, clothes, and colors. And my goal was to design an assessment appropriate for young learners while aligning the test with classroom instruction. And my test objectives. By the end of the test, students were expected to recognize target vocabulary, identify weather and class vocabulary, understand simple listening input, match words and visuals, demonstrate basic comprehension skills, and objectives were directly connected to the instructional goals of the practicum class, my practicum class. And test design. In my test specifications, elements usually are a description. My test type was achievement test. My format was paper-based and skills assessed, vocabulary, listening, reading, and comprehension skills test. And duration 25 minutes, and my total questions were 20. Scoring was answer K, and the test focused on language recognition and comprehension suitable for young learners. And task types of my test. In section A, my task type was matching and skill was vocabulary. And part B, my task type was multiple choice and skill was reading and vocabulary. And section C, task type was looking and circle. As a teacher, I show a picture. Then my students ask, yes, teacher, this is the picture you showed. And they write the correct vocabulary according to the picture that I showed. And last part, D, task type was true false and skill was comprehension. And I used different task types to increase engagement and reduce boredom because my students was very young learners category, and it is important to uh, pay attention for their attractiveness. So it's so important to me to reduce the boredom. And scoring criteria, scoring process. Each section was 25 points. Total score was 100 points. Objective scoring system used. And simple answer key prepared. Why prepared for scoring? And the question, why this scoring method? Because it is easy to administer and it's fair for young learners and it's practical in classroom settings because the learners were very young and I prepared a simple and objective scoring system for them. And test administration, implementation process. Um, Tests administered during regular class hours, and students completed tasks individually. It is important. It is not a group work. It's just individually test part. And instructions explained slowly. Listening items read twice. but not direct listening items. But my test includes some listening parts, but not directly listening parts. And visual support used throughout the test. I also use gestures and simple explanations to help students understand instructions. And of course, there are some challenges for my implementation, and that challenges I faced. For example, maintaining students' attention because we cannot cut their attention seamlessly, and simplifying instructions, managing time during listening section, and reducing students' anxiety, and my solutions. And maybe there are some example solutions for you. Short tasks are important because we think they are attention dribble, and short should be tasks should be short, and visual support is important for very young learners, and repetition of instruction is important also, and positive classroom atmosphere is of course an important solutions. And young learners lose focus quickly, so keeping the test visually and engaging was important for them because they are very young learners. And my grading procedure was answer key used for consistency, papers graded individually, students' identities anonymized, different achievement levels observed, and my students' performance. High achievers performs well in vocabulary, but of course some students struggle in listening section. But of course, I want to tell it again, but there is no directly listening section in my test. But of course, we have some listening section, but not directly listening section, and some of them struggled that. And you can see my test examples. There are two example tests of mine, and categories students A, high achievements, you know, and students B, average achievements, and I cannot add student C, but I want to mention about him. And student C needs improvement because his points was, I think, 55 points, like that. And these samples helped me observe differences in learner performance and comprehension. And my content validity. Validity, the test showed strong content validity because tasks matched classroom instruction, vocabulary came from thoughts, units, objectives, and tasks were aligned, and listening reflected classroom practice. And literature support, according to H. Douglas Brown and Priyavand Wada Abeywukarama, effective assessments should align with instructional objectives, and the assessments measured what students were actually taught in class. And face validity, the test appeared appropriate because instructions very clear, layout was simple, visual supported understanding, tasks were familiar, and literature support for this validity. Penn emphasized that young learners' assessments should be visually supportive and developmentally appropriate. So students understood what they needed to do, which reduced confusion. And as a washback affects positive washback increased participation, encouraged vocabulary review, supported classroom engagement. And as a negative washback, some learners felt nervous during listening task, and in his this literature support, assessment can influence both teaching and learning practices positively or negatively. And I observed that students became more motivated to participate in vocabulary activities. because I thought about this positive washback effect. And reflection. Reflection, that's my experience and lesson learned. What I learned, assessment should support learning. Validity is important in test design. Young learners need motivating tasks. Instructions must be very clear. And what I would change in my test duration, I should include more listening practice because I mentioned about that. My listening section or listening part is not enough to test. So I would include more listening practice part, and I use more colorful visuals and simplify some tasks layout further. And this project improved both my assessment knowledge and classroom awarenesses. And as a conclusion, the project helps me connect theory and practice because it's important. Yes, we learned everything from as a theory, but we cannot use in our practicum or we cannot practice about them. So it is very important for me to um, connect these two type of learn. And designing a real classroom test improved my assessment skill. Young learner assessment requires careful planning and adaptation, and assessment should be meaningful, supportive, and learner friendly. And finally, testing is not only about measuring learning, but also about supporting learning. And they are my references. So thanks for listening to me.